James Lupton for Pro Boxing Fans. Delighted to join with Youssef Khoumari. Youssef, how are you?
I'm doing very well, James. How are you?
All good, mate. All good, mate. Let's talk about, first of all, you're out in Portugal. You were Dillian Whyte in camp. How's it going over there? We're just talking off recording there a little bit about how different it is, obviously, being back in the gym. You've been out there for 2.5 weeks now. What's it been like?
It's been amazing. It's my first real big training camp that I've been a part of. Most of my camps have been back home, and they've been, the bog standard training camp, which is, you go to the gym, you go to work, you go home. But being out here, and I think the big difference is having everything in the same place. Back home, I'd have to go to the boxing gym, and then if I had a physio appointment, I'd probably have to travel to a physio. Then strength conditioning probably might be across London. So to have everything in one place here, it just makes a big difference, and it's a lot easier to just get through the day. Because sometimes back home, you like the whole day you just spent driving in traffic. Do you know what I mean?
That's it. So, I mean, it sounds like immediately you can tell the difference between a full-time camp and doing a camp whilst working.
Yeah, there's a big difference. You can fully dedicate, fully focus on stuff that maybe before you couldn't really put 100% into. For example, like my nutrition and those kind of things. When I was working, it was a lot harder because, you're out and about, and because you're so busy working, you just eat what's in front of you. You're not really thinking about what's going in. You're hungry, so you just want something to go in as soon as. But being full-time as a boxer now, you start to learn a lot more, especially because I'm around a lot of like proper experienced guys out here. I know Ruben Tabares is out here. Dillian's physio's out here as well. So I'm just taking the opportunity to learn as much as I can about them, from them, like about nutrition and that sort of thing, and just take my game to the next level, really.
Talk to me about the decision going full-time. It's quite a recent thing. Is it because you've signed with Dillian as your manager, or is it something that was in the works beforehand?
I went full-time just before my English title fight with Dillon was announced. Before then, I was working as a personal trainer in the gym. So I was doing that for about 5 years, I think. And I'm grateful and very honoured to have, sponsors behind me that are willing to back my journey to the point where I could actually leave work and just fully focus on my boxing. So, they fully back me regardless of where I'm fighting. They were backing me from when I was on the small hall shows and that sort of stuff as well. So, I'm grateful to them. And, they play a big part in my career, and they've already played a big part in my career to get me to where I am now.
Let's talk about Liam Dillon fight. Like you say, English title, fought to a draw. A lot of people said it was, fight of the year contender, especially in the small hold circuits. Talk to us about that. Obviously, you say there's your first full-time training camp. How much did that benefit your preparation going into a title fight?
It took my game to another level, a total another level. I mean, I was able to do strength conditioning, more than once a week, because before I was limited to just once a week. And also, I think the main factor was the rest, because, I trained twice a day before. I'd go to the gym in the morning or do a run or strength conditioning in the morning, and then go straight to work. And then from work, go straight back to the gym. And by the time I'm back at the gym for the second session, it's like I've got nothing left in me because I've been working the whole day. In the English title fight camp, where I was able to train, go home and rest, eat the right food and recover and come back, I felt my performance doubled and probably even tripled. I was smashing my times on the treadmills. We do a thing called the punch count with my coach, and you count how many punches you're throwing around on the bag, and I was smashing through that as well. Like, I literally just took my fitness and even my understanding of boxing, because I was able to fully commit, watch boxing all day while I was resting. And yeah, like I say, take my game to the next level. So I think had I not had a full-time training camp, the fight may not have been as good as it was, because my fitness was on another level that night. So yeah, it really helped.
Absolutely. And obviously, with lockdown coming in, there's been no boxing for so long now. Feels like forever. Since that draw, you did manage to get out again before lockdown came in, and you got a win. How pleased are you that you managed to get a win before the lack of fights?
I feel very lucky, because I think when we was talking about going out again after the fight, I think the first date we spoke about was the 14th of March. And how it came about, I ended up boxing on the 9th of March, was the week before. And had I stuck to the 14th, I wouldn't have boxed because all the shows on the 14th got cancelled. I think the 14th, the week I boxed was the last week that they had boxing going on until all the measures came in. So it feels good to have got out because then the gap would have been so long, would have been November, late November that I last boxed. So, you know, there'd been a lot of ring rust, and not only that, you're out the gym because you can't train and all that. So it was good to get a camp in and you know, take over, get a good fight in. Because the guy that came, he came to win. So it was a good little fight. And yeah, it feels good to have fought and, you know, stay sharp and ready for when lockdown comes back. I mean, when boxing comes back.
That's it. Let's talk a little bit about, we mentioned briefly, you signed with Dillian Whyte as your manager. But before we get on to that, let's talk about, you know, everyone wants to know Dillian Whyte's new signing. What's he all about? How did he get into boxing? Tell us a bit about your journey into boxing to today.
My journey into boxing, like I didn't initially start with boxing. My first sort of combat sport was a martial art called Choi Kwando. That was the first sort of combat I got into. And I started really young. I started, I think, around 6 years old, 5, 6 years old. And I was doing it for a very long time. I was doing it about 10 years. I managed to get to the first stage of a black belt. So I was doing it a very long time. But because the martial art was so non-contact and it was very focused on not fighting. So the motto of the martial art was to stop a fight before it begins. And, you know, when we were doing little sparring drills in the classes, and that is very controlled. And I always thought to myself, you know, I want to push myself a bit more and see if I can take my game to another level and see if there's anything out there that I can really apply myself to and that can improve myself. And, you know, at the same time, Manny Pacquiao was running through guys, knocking guys out. And me being originally from the Philippines, you know, it caught my eye, and, you know, he made me want to walk into a boxing gym one day and try it. So I think I watched the first Morales fight, the one he lost. And I thought after that fight, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna give this a go, and I'm gonna stop talking about it and find myself a gym and give it a go. And I walked into the first boxing gym I ever trained in, and that was the All Stars on Harrow Road. Laced up my first pair of gloves, and, you know, the love story started from there.
So in terms of you growing up, you going into boxing, is it fair to say Pacquiao was your hero, your idol coming into boxing?
Yeah, in terms of getting me actually into boxing and starting the sport for myself, definitely Manny Pacquiao. I think before that, I knew about boxing. I knew about, you know about Muhammad Ali's, the Mike Tysons, you know about the real icons in boxing. But I think watching Manny Pacquiao was what really inspired me to actually, you know, go and buy my own pair of gloves and walk into a gym and try this for real.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Dillian Whyte. How long have you known Dillian, and how did this deal come about?
I first met Dillian, I'd say, I might be wrong, I think it was September last year where I met him properly. And what happened is my coach, Xavier Miller, he became part of Dillian's team. And, you know, he was in the corner in Saudi Arabia with Mark Tibbs, and they were all out there. So I started seeing Dillian around the gym. He started popping in every now and again, and he'd watch me spar and I'd watch him spar, and we'd watch each other train. And, you know, we just clicked in the gym. I mean, Dillian's as real as he's as real as it gets, to be honest. He's a real guy. You know, he gave me tips here and there in the gym, and come about that he wanted to sign me and manage me, because I think I was fortunate that my contract with my previous manager was coming to an end as well. So it was just fortunate timing that, you know, he was interested just as my previous contract was coming to an end. And yeah, we went from there really, and we're here now.
What do you feel Dillian can bring to the table for you going ahead in your career?
I feel like where I was before, I wanted to break onto a certain platform of boxing. I felt not necessarily a dead end, but I felt like I was being not held back, but for me to get to where I wanted to be would have been very hard. It would have been very hard. But I feel with someone like Dillian behind me who cares about his fighters and who generally just wants the best for the people around him, he just wants the people around him to succeed as well. You know, I think he can take my career to the level I believe I should be at and put me on the platform that will ultimately take my career to the level that I feel I should be at as well.
And what's it been like sharing your first real camp together over there in Portugal?
It's nothing but inspiring. It's inspiring. I mean, I thought I used to train hard until I saw Dillian train. Do you know what I mean? Like, even when I saw him back home training, he was training, but he was more ticking over. Like now he's probably training for a fight. It's like another level. I mean, he's taking it up, and it's inspiring. It's like, it shows me a level where I can take myself. Do you know what I mean? He's running, he's training 3 times a day, and I never really trained 3 times a day. The most I've done is 2. So it's like, you know, there is another level out there I can push myself to, and another level I can elevate to and improve myself.
I think everybody's seen the Instagram stories that Dillian's been sharing throughout the gym. So as well as the hard work, it seems like there's been a lot of good. It's a bit of a laugh. It's good morale in the gym. You know, yourself out there, Ollie Edwards, John Harding Jr., Pesta, and Dillian.
Yeah.
Seems like it's a good vibe. How important is that for a fighter during camp to also enjoy it whilst having the hard work as well?
Oh, very important. It's very important. You know, in camp, you want to be relaxed. You want to enjoy yourself. You don't want to be just, you know, worked up and angry all the time. You don't want it to be like a Rocky movie, you know, like Rocky 4, when Rocky was just locked up and training and that sort of stuff. You want to enjoy yourself and relax. And when you're relaxed and you feel good, you just perform better. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but when you're feeling good about yourself, you just get in the ring, you know, good vibes around you, you just perform a lot better than if it was just, you know, knuckle down training. And camp needs to be enjoyable. Camp is, how can I say it? Camp is as hard as it is, do you know what I mean? Camp's already a madness. So if you're gonna not joke around and have a laugh and have some banter with the guys in camp, then camp's gonna be, you might go mad in camp, do you know what I mean? So it's always good to have a laugh in camp and keep it real, because some boxers might go crazy otherwise, man.
Absolutely. We spoke about the fighters, but also what about the trainers? You mentioned, obviously, you're trained by Xavier Miller. You mentioned Ruben's out there, and also you've seen Mark Tibbs around the gym in England as well. How much do you learn from those guys as well? You know, especially experienced guys like Mark Tibbs, who's obviously learned from his dad, Jimmy.
You learn a lot. You learn a lot of things. It's always good to. I always believe, not just in boxing but in life, you should always be in a state where you want to learn, because no matter how old we get, you're never going to know everything. There's always going to be something new to learn. So I'm always trying to be open and learn new things from coaches or strength conditioning guys, nutritionists, or even like anyone, do you know what I mean? Anyone can give me a little tip and it could help me improve my game. So, you know, being around experienced guys like, you know, Ruben Tabarez, who's trained, you know, the likes of Amir Khan, David Hay, ECT, it's good for me because, you know, like I was saying earlier, I thought I trained hard until I come here. So to learn new things off them guys and new ways of training and new strategies, it helps me just elevate myself to compete with the guys at the higher level. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about Dillian. Obviously, like I say, he was in camp. Sounds like Povetkin fight's still coming. It's still like it's going to be announced fairly soon. Whether it's behind closed doors or not, I don't know. How's Dillian looking? Is he still hungry for the Povetkin fight? Is he, you know, what's he been like during camp?
He's been a beast in training. He's always a beast, but when I come out here, he's been an animal, man. I mean, he's, like I say, it's inspiring. He's pushing himself to the limit, training 3 times a day, and yeah, he's looking good. And you know, wherever he fights or whenever he fights, he's 100% ready to go. He's 100% ready to go for anyone.
What's he been doing in terms of sparring out there? Like I mentioned, you're out there, Pesta, Ollie. I think the biggest out of you lot is probably Ollie. I think he's super middleweight. Has he been sparring out there still? Is he drafting anybody out there heavyweight wise, or is it not to the stage of sparring yet for in camp at this stage?
I'm not too sure what he's been doing with his sparring, to be honest. He's been doing little bits here and there, but in terms of his main sparring, I'm not really too sure about who he's going to bring in or if he's got anyone in at the moment, because we train pretty much not at exactly the same time. So he might come in a bit later than me. So I'm not exactly sure about who he's going to be sparring in that. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be good work whoever comes in.
Absolutely. And let's talk about, we spoke about this more about it off camera, the WBC mandatory situation. It sounds like, well, I spoke to Richard Suleiman last week and he confirmed that Dillian is taking the WBC to court. It's with his lawyers. What's your
Mm,
thoughts on that situation? And as a young fighter coming through, aspiring to get to that top level, does that put
mm.
any worry on you to see what they're doing to Dillian, and potentially they could do it again to whoever in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think my opinion on it is it highlights the sad state of boxing is in today. You know, we've already got multiple world titles. So we've got maybe four or five main world titles out there. And the fans are already confused about, who's a world champion, who isn't a world champion, because they've added interim world champions and silver world champions. And like everyone's confused. And now I'm hearing they're going to add the franchise champion. And it just highlights the state of boxing at the moment, because I'm hearing if you're a franchise champion and you lose, you're still the franchise champion. Like that sounds absurd to me. I mean, that's like saying, if you compare it to football, that's like saying if Liverpool win the league this year, and they become the franchise champions, if they don't win the league this year, they've still won the league. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. I mean, it's hurting the sport, and it is a worry to me because, one day I want to get up to world level if I can, and I don't want us to be doing these kind of things if I get up there. The boxing should be a sport. It should be at the most maybe 3 or 4 world titles and just world titles. So, the best can fight the best, and the fans can start loving the sport for what it once was.
Absolutely. I mean, what are your opinions on if Fury faces Anthony Joshua and unification? That
Mm,
obviously trumps a mandatory. So again, there's more potential there for Dillian to wait even longer. Is there? I mean, if you was in his position, would you
mm,
look at potentially going down a different route? There's IBF, RBO, sorry, WBA, WBO.
mm.
Would you look at another route, or because you're already mandatory, you've worked hard to get there, would you still persist?
I think if I was in his shoes, I'd still persist. I'd still persist. My opinion, he's worked hard to get into that mandatory spot. He's fought hard fight after hard fight. I mean, his CV is of his last maybe 4 or 5 fights have all been all hard fights. He doesn't really take any easy fights. And if he does fight, if he does fight Povetkin, that's another hard fight. That's another pretty much a world title fight, a world title level fight. So for him to give up that mandatory position and go another route, I don't know. I mean, it's like giving up all what he's worked for. So I'd push to get him an opportunity with the WBC, and that's what I would do.
How how much better can Dillian get under Mark Tibbs? He seems every fight to improve. What I will say is, apart from the Maris Wack fight, obviously he did come in overweight. There was the issue with the Rivas fight. So putting that one
Mm.
aside, he has improved in every fight under Mark Tibbs. How
Mm.
much more room is there for Dillian to improve?
Um, I think Dillon's already a world level fighter, as he's proven, and I think he's ready to go and fight for a world title now and win one. Like, I think that's the only thing stopping him from winning a world title now is the WBC and the whole situation with the championships and the franchise thing. If it wasn't for that, I reckon he'd already be a world champion. So, I mean, like I was saying earlier, as people, we can always improve. We can never get to a level where we know everything. So, everyone can definitely improve. But in terms of his boxing skill, he's definitely world level, and he's basically a world champion, in my eyes anyway.
And very finally, before I let you go, you mentioned earlier Manny Pacquiao was one of the main reasons you got into boxing.
Yeah,
There's talk in a minute of him fighting potentially Golovkin. What do
yeah,
you
yeah.
make of that?
It was a bit of a shock when it first came out. He sort of came out of nowhere. There was no little rumors first or nothing. It just came out, boom, that, Manny and Golovkin might fight. So if I was a betting man, I'd put money on Manny, because Golovkin's a very flat foot fighter. And, Manny's very quick on his feet. And, Manny might run rings around him for 12 rounds and get a win in the decision. So it'll be a good fight. It'll be intriguing one to watch. But, then again, it will be at a high weight. I don't know what weight they're going to try and do it at. So there's a lot of factors to take in. But, yeah, it'll be a good fight. It'll be interesting to see.
And finally, what do you think is the secret or the key to Pacquiao's longevity? He's been in the sport, seems like, longer than I've been alive,
Yeah. I remember watching him when I was like in school and all that still.
Why do you think he's still there? Is it down to, is it behind the scenes of camps, nutrition? Is it strength and conditioning? Is there something there that does give you that extra bit of longevity?
I think with Manny, he always seems to be in and around his fighting weight. He never seems to have to be in a state where he has to lose, a lot of weight before a fight or use his training camp to lose weight. Like, he always seems to be in and around his weight. And I think when you're always in a state where you're losing 6, 7 kilo, 8 kilo of training camp, it takes years off your career. So I think that's the secret to his longevity. I'm not going to try to say the word anymore. The secret to him having a long career is just him always being on weight and not torturing his body, losing weight, with sweatsuits and that sort of thing, and always keeping in shape. I think that's the secret, to be honest, because it must take a toll on your body if you're, losing 6, 7 kilos at a time.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Youssef, thank you for joining me today. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Taking time out.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No worries.